Now we're really getting into what the Apology is all about. It is not about the trial of Socrates, which is a fait accompli. Socrates is certain that he will be convicted and executed. The question is, was this pursuit of philosophy, knowing where it would lead, worthwhile, given the outcome that's about to happen? Socrates. Some will say, and are you not ashamed, Socrates, of a course of life which is likely to bring you to an untimely end? To him I may fairly answer, there you are mistaken. A man who is good for anything ought not to calculate the chance of living or dying. He ought only to consider whether in doing anything he is doing right or wrong, acting the part of a good man or of a bad. Whereas, upon your view, the heroes who fell at Troy were not good for much, and the son of Thetis above all, who altogether despised danger in comparison with disgrace. To calculate the risk of acting based on your chances of living and dying is the wrong way to go about life. You must weigh actions on their rightness or wrongness and nothing more. Where the road takes you is external, irrelevant to the modus operandi. Case in point, Achilles. He'd been sulking on the sidelines long through most of the Iliad until Hector slew his bosom buddy Patroclus. He went to avenge that death, knowing he could be mortally wounded, and he did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. For Socrates to not go down with a philosophical ship at this point in his career would be a disgrace to his entire philosophy. Remember how at the beginning of the Apology, Socrates tried to dispense with ornamented rhetoric, thereby making a distinction between rhetoric and wisdom? He's taking a similar tack at this point in the argument. He's making a distinction between a calculated, scripted life, I'll stick around for as long as I can and adjust my sails accordingly, and the honorable path of staying true to your character, your course. In his argument that consistency is the more honorable way to go, Socrates sneaks in the fact that he has served Athens before, put his life at risk, like other veterans. Since Athens ordered me to serve the military facing death, and I didn't desert my post, it would be most strange, since God compels me to philosophize, if I were to change my pursuit of truth to avoid death. Moreover, your accusations of atheism would have merit if I had disobeyed the oracle because I was afraid of death. For the fear of death is indeed the pretense of wisdom, and not real wisdom, being a pretense of knowing the unknown. And no one knows whether death, which men in their fear apprehend to be the greatest evil, may not be the greatest good. Is not this ignorance of a disgraceful sort? The ignorance which is the conceit that a man knows what he does not know? That's a brilliant move by Socrates. A fear of something presumes knowledge of that something. Fear of death pretends to know what death is. But nobody truly knows that death is the greatest evil. They think they know, but they don't know. Notice how Socrates keeps looping back to his ignorance-knowledge theme. A man who thinks he knows when he doesn't know is a walking paradox, living the lie. And in this respect only I believe myself to differ from men in general, and may perhaps claim to be wiser than they are. That whereas I know but little of the world below, I do not suppose that I know, but I do know that injustice and disobedience to a better, whether God or man, is evil and dishonorable, and I will never fear or avoid a possible good rather than a certain evil. Socrates is different. He doesn't pretend to know. What does he know? Beyond that paradoxical truth of knowing that he doesn't know. Well, he claims that he knows that it is evil to disobey a better. So what would Socrates say to those who might let him go free on the condition that he ceased all this annoying philosophizing? And therefore, if you let me go now and are not convinced by Anytus, who said that since I had been prosecuted, I must be put to death, Or if not that, I ought never to have been prosecuted at all, and that if I escape now, your sons will all be utterly ruined by listening to my words. If you say to me, Socrates, this time we will not mind Anytus, and you shall be let off, but upon one condition, that you are not to inquire and speculate in this way any more, and that if you are caught doing so again, you shall die. If this was the condition on which you let me go, I should reply, men of Athens, I honor and love you, but I shall obey God rather than you. And while I have life and strength, I shall never cease from the practice and teaching of philosophy, exhorting anyone whom I meet, and saying to him after my manner, you, my friend, a citizen of the great and mighty and wise city of Athens, are you not ashamed of heaping up the greatest amount of money and honor and reputation, and caring so little about wisdom and truth, and the greatest improvement of the soul, which you never regard or heed at all? And if the person with whom I am arguing says, yes, but I do care, then I do not leave him or let him go at once, but I proceed to interrogate and examine and cross-examine him, and if I think that he has no virtue in him, but only says that he has, I reproach him with undervaluing the greater and overvaluing the less. So clearly Socrates has no plans to budge. Nobody will make him change his ways. Now he makes a remarkable, even an outlandish claim. And I shall repeat the same words to everyone whom I meet, young and old, citizen and alien, but especially to the citizens, inasmuch as they are my brethren. For know that this is the command of God, and I believe that no greater good has ever happened in the state than my service to God. Huh? I thought Socrates was all humble about knowing that he doesn't know. Now he claims he's God's gift to Athens? What is he getting at? For I do nothing but go about persuading you all, old and young alike, not to take thought of your persons or your properties, but first and chiefly to care about the greatest improvement of the soul. I tell you that virtue is not given by money, but that from virtue comes money and every other good of man, public as well as private. This is my teaching. And if this is the doctrine which corrupts the youth, I am a mischievous person. But if anyone says that this is not my teaching, he is speaking untruth. Wherefore, O men of Athens, I say to you, do as Anytus bids or not as Anytus bids, and either acquit me or not. But whichever you do, understand that I shall never alter my ways, not even if I have to die many times. Yes, the man had a gigantic ego. He says, I am the guy whom God has assigned to go out there insisting that you get your priorities right, that you work on improving your souls. Or as the animals put it, I'm just a soul whose intentions are good. Oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. One imagines a sweep of the jury box would find many eyes rolling, many arms folded. Socrates wants them to be utterly clear about whom and what they are convicting. He is sacrificing his life for the sake of philosophy. Philosophy is not the frivolous mental wanking off of treacherous windbags. It is a serious, honorable profession. And now the natives are getting restless. Socrates has been flouting their pretentious mock trial, seeing through the charade. Evidently a ruckus was raised. Men of Athens, do not interrupt, but hear me. There was an understanding between us that you should hear me to the end. I have something more to say, at which you may be inclined to cry out. But I believe that to hear me will be good for you, and therefore I beg that you will not cry out. I would have you know that if you kill such an one as I am, you will injure yourselves more than you will injure me. Nothing will injure me, not Miletus nor yet Anytus. They cannot, for a bad man is not permitted to injure a better than himself. I do not deny that Anytus may perhaps kill him, or drive him into exile, or deprive him of civil rights, and he may imagine, and others may imagine, that he is inflicting a great injury upon him. But there I do not agree, for the evil of doing as he is doing, the evil of unjustly taking away the life of another, is greater far. Notice how Socrates keeps resetting the moral compass. Morality should not be defined democratically. Just because the consensus says something is right or wrong does not make it so. If the tyranny of the majority thinks they can injure him by taking away his life, they will be disappointed. He's also inverting the argument, saying that Athens is hurting itself more than it could ever hurt him. And now we come to the classic gadfly metaphor. And now, Athenians, I am not going to argue for my own sake, as you may think, but for yours, that you may not sin against a god by condemning me, whom am his gift to you. For if you kill me, you will not easily find a successor to me, who, if I may use such a ludicrous figure of speech, am a sort of gadfly, given to the state by God, and the state is a great and noble steed, who is tardy in his motions owing to his very size, and requires to be stirred into life. I am that gadfly, which God has attached to the state, and all day long and in all places am always fastening upon you, arousing and persuading and reproaching you. You will not easily find another like me, and therefore I would advise you to spare me. The philosopher in Socrates' conception keeps the state honest. We need critics, skeptics, questioners of authority. A society is better off when it makes a home even welcomes such criticism. The seeds of press freedom are contained in this idea. A free press should play a similar role in modern society, shouldn't it? Unfortunately, it all too often functions as an arm of the ideological state apparatus. And by the state, I mean not only the government, but the entire power matrix that rules over society, the business class, the state bureaucracy, the educational, cultural, and religious mainstream. We need critics of all that. Where are those public intellectuals in our society? Where is the free press? The likes of Socrates do not come around so often. When I say that I am given to you by God, the proof of my mission is this. If I had been like other men, I should not have neglected all my own concerns or patiently seen the neglect of them during all these years, and have been doing yours, coming to you individually like a father or elder brother, exhorting you to regard virtue. Such conduct, I say, would be unlike human nature. If I had gained anything, or if my exhortations had been paid, there would have been some sense in my doing so. But now, as you will perceive, not even the impudence of my accusers dares to say that I have ever exacted or sought pay of anyone. This is a nice statement of Socrates' purity of motives. He did not make money from his philosophical way of life. He didn't gain any kind of social advantage, really. He has sacrificed his well-being for the good of the state. He forsook the beach house in the Hamptons and the yearly vacations and the award dinners and the junkets and the talk show guest spots, the Italian suits, the 3 martini lunches, and all the rest that fame and fortune might have given him. I get the sense that Socrates wants people to be in tune with their better natures, for lack of a better word. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. This conscience has a quasi-mystical timbre. He employs a sort of numinous language, that of oracles, signs, a voice, to convey his refusal of official public service instead opting for private interactions. Socrates. Someone may wonder why I go about in private giving advice and busying myself with the concerns of others, but do not venture to come forward in public and advise the state. I will tell you why. You've heard me speak at sundry times and in divers places of an oracle or sign which comes to me, and is the divinity which Meletus ridicules in the indictment. This sign, which is a kind of voice, first began to come to me when I was a child. It always forbids, but never commands me to do anything which I'm going to do. This is what deters me from being a politician, and rightly, as I think, for I am certain, O men of Athens, that if I had engaged in politics, I should have perished long ago, and done no good either to you or to myself. And do not be offended at my telling you the truth, for the truth is that no man who goes to war with you, or any other multitude, honestly striving against the many lawless and unrighteous deeds which are done in a state, will save his life. He who will fight for the right, if he would live even for a brief space, must have a private station and not a public one. So the best way to take on the state is through private oblique tactics, not overt, showy public displays of resistance. So 2 cases are cited. In the first, during the democracy, Socrates resisted the illegal trial and execution by a group of generals after the Battle of Arginusae. Then when the oligarchs ruled, he resisted their attempts to force him to participate in the unjust arrest and execution of Leon of Salamis. In both cases, he opposed the reigning powers. He kept his distance, his integrity intact. He seems adamant about retaining political independence. Now, do you really imagine that I could have survived all these years if I had led a public life, supposing that like a good man I had always maintained the right and had made justice as I ought, the first thing? No, indeed, men of Athens, neither I nor any other man. But I have been always the same in all my actions, public as well as private, and never have I yielded any base compliance to those who are slanderously termed my disciples, or to any other. Not that I have any regular disciples, but if anyone likes to come and hear me while I am pursuing my mission, whether he be young or old, he is not excluded. Nor do I converse only with those who pay, but anyone, whether he be rich or poor, may ask and answer me and listen to my words. And whether he turns out to be a bad man or a good man, neither result can be justly imputed to me, for I never taught or professed to teach him anything. And if anyone says that he has ever learned or heard anything from me in private, which all the world has not heard, let me tell you that he is lying. So Socrates is an equal opportunity philosopher. Poor and rich, young and old, good and bad are welcome to discourse with him. In this respect, he's quite democratic. He's also consistent. The translation, "Never have I yielded any base compliance to those who are slanderously termed my disciples," is rather puzzling. I guess he means he doesn't want to be convicted of guilt by association. He can't be judged by the deeds of his followers. He rejects the notion that he has a school of Socrates. Socrates would have us believe that his philosophical project was independent and consistent. He had no political axis to grind, no profit motive, no mission to indoctrinate followers. There would be no Socrates.com website, no Socrates video lectures, no Socrates political action committees. He would never find the need to hire a lobbyist. No monetization for Socrates. The picture may not be as simple as he would like to paint it, though. The question of influence and the responsibility for your words is one that continues to provoke vigorous debate. One could make the argument that Socrates' refusal to be more active in public life was a subversion of his civic duty, and his disabusing of any responsibility for the actions of his followers was a cavalier avoidance of social responsibility. The sense that his philosophy was in fact subversive is in some respects enhanced by his own defense. Not that subversion is necessarily a bad thing. Subversion of nasty governments can be just what society needs.